Pressing onward with Guitar Foundations. In the last lesson, we looked at how to tune a guitar with an electronic tuner. Now we're going to make it a little bit harder, a lot harder actually, by tuning the guitar by ear. And this is a lot harder and it requires more skill than most people give it credit for. So don't feel bad if you're not great at it right away. You will pick up on it. You just have to treat it like anything else you're learning on the guitar. You know, you have to put that effort in, just like if you're learning a new chord or learning a new strumming pattern. Be sure to head over to natesavage.com to pick up a copy of the ebook for Guitar Foundations so you can follow along or schedule a private lesson with me if that's something you need to help on anything we've gone through so far. Okay, let's get into this. I'm going to cover all the same stuff that we covered in the last video too, because if somebody is just landing on this video, I want them to be able to, you know, have a comprehensive resource for learning how to tune the guitar by ear. So the first thing you need to know, there are several things, kind of prerequisites before you want to start jumping into tuning guitar by ear. First thing is the natural musical alphabet. And it's just the first 7 letters of the natural or the regular alphabet, and it's just A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And when you're talking about pitch, let's say this is an A note, I have no idea what it is. If you go up, it would be a B, and then when you go up again, it'd be a C, and then if you keep going, it'd eventually get to a D. So it kind of goes in order that way. So that's something you just have to think about as you learn how to match pitch and things like that. The next thing you need to know and have done really well are the names of the open strings on the guitar. And in guitar culture, for some reason, we start generally with the low E string when we're thinking about naming the strings. I don't know why that is. That's because the first string, the high string over here is the first string, and this is the 6th string, the fattest string. So just keep that in mind. That's kind of counterintuitive for some people, but first string, thinnest string, thickest string is the low E string, and these are both E strings. So first and 6th string. Now the names of the notes of the open strings are E, A, D, G, B, and E. And it took me a long time to learn this when I was younger because, I don't know, I just had some kind of mental block. Like I thought it was too hard for me to do. And finally one day I got sick of it and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to memorize it. Memorize it, forwards and backwards. And one thing that would have helped me, or that did help me back then, was an acronym, some witty little saying you can come up with anyone you like. I used eat all day, go to bed early. A lot of people use Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. I mean, the important thing is that you just add this to your daily routine until you have it to where you don't even have to think about it, to where you know that this is a G, that this is an A, that this is a D, B, E, E, and to where you don't even have to think about it because you're going to be using that a lot when you tune the guitar. The next little item on our checklist that we need to go over before getting into tuning the guitar is the idea of a note being sharp or flat and starting to train our ear to recognize that and adjust the guitar accordingly. If we say a note is flat, that just means it's too low and it needs to come up. If we say a note is sharp, that just means that the note is too high and it needs to come down. So a really good way to just get familiar with this, think about sharps. They're a little tic-tac-toe sign or a hashtag sign, and flat signs are little, they look like a lowercase b. Just grab any tuning key on your guitar, play a note, that low E string or whatever, and just go up a little and go down a little and get used to doing that. And you can even try to match the pitch with your voice. That'll help a lot too. But matching pitch is going to be a really critical part of getting your guitar in tune. So what do you do if, like, this guitar is really out of tune? What do you do if you don't have an electronic tuner and you know that your guitar is way out of tune? Well, the first thing you need to do is get a reference pitch so you can tune one of the strings of your guitar, and you can use that string to tune the rest of the guitar. So I know that that guitar back there is in tune, so I'm just going to pluck an E on it, and then I'm going to do my best to match that E that I'm hearing, or match this string to this note that I'm hearing. So you may not be able to hear that. That was really buzzy. There you go. Okay, so I know that's pretty close to an E. So if you don't have another guitar, what you can do is you play an E on the piano, or a lot of metronomes and tuners come with a reference pitch function where you can just hit a button and they'll play an E or an A note, and you can match that. And it may take a while to where you get really good at matching that pitch. That's just something you're going to have to develop as a guitar player. So another thing you can do is just assume that one of your strings is in tune on the guitar and just tune it to whatever it was. So if my low E string was here, I would just assume if it's close that I can use that string to tune the rest of the strings of the guitar. So we're going to use something called the 5th fret method to tune the guitar, and you'll see why here in a second. But let's say your E string is in tune or pretty close to it. What you want to do is fret the 5th fret, and that note is an A. So if that note's an A, the next string, the open A, should be the exact same pitch, and you play both of those together. And my ear is telling me that's not even close to being in tune. So what I would do is just adjust this tuning key until that A string is in tune, and it's going to take a while. If you go too far, you know, come back up. And let me give you some tips for not breaking strings here as you learn how to tune guitar by ear. Number one, if you think you're going too far or too high, then you probably are, so you need to just stop, back off, and start over. So if I think I'm going too high, then just stop, back off a little bit, and then start over. So 5th fret of the low E and the open A together. Pretty close to being in the tune. Cool. So you can't tell that there's more than one note going on there that's not the same. The second tip I have for not breaking a string on the guitar when you're tuning is to make sure that you're turning the right tuning key. So if I'm trying to tune my open high E string and I'm accidentally grab the tuner for the B string and I start cranking on it and I notice what's wrong with this, the pitch isn't getting any higher. And all the while I'm turning this thing, the B string is getting higher and higher and it's getting ready to break. And finally it does, and you break a string. So just make sure to follow whatever string down you're trying to tune and use that tuner to tune that string, just to make sure you're using the right one. That'll keep you from breaking the string. Okay, next step in the 5th fret method, our E and A strings are in tune, is to fret the 5th fret of the A string. And that should be the exact same pitch as the next string over. That's a D note. So our next string is an open D, so they should match. They should be the exact same pitch. And if they're not, you have to adjust the D string. So follow it down, make sure you're tuning the right tuning key. And my ear is telling me that that needs to come up. And there it is. And if you feel like you're going too far, just come back down. And this is going to take some practice to be able to match pitch like this, but even just singing along and matching pitch with your voice to a song is really good training for this. So next string, fret the 5th fret of the D string. That is a G note, so it should be the exact same note as the open G, the next string over, your 3rd string. And this is a really good example here. I'm glad I messed this guitar up like this. Listen to these two strings together and you will hear a kind of a warble, wah, 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 something like that. Very conflicty, rubbing against each other, right? So my ear is telling me that this G string is a little bit too high and needs to come down. Okay, that's pretty close. And one tip I have for you here is always tune up to a note too. The guitar likes it when you come up to a note instead of coming down to a note. So instead of doing this, coming down to a note, what I would do is go down a little bit and then come up. Okay, that's pretty close. Next, this is where the 5th fret method falls apart a little bit because it turns into the 4th fret method just for one string. You have to play the 4th fret of the G string, the 3rd string, because that note is a B, and the next string, just because of the way the guitar is tuned, the next string is an open B, so those two notes should be the same, and we are lucky here because that's pretty close. I'm gonna go over a little bit and listen for that warble again, that grinding up against each other. Hear that? That's when you know they're not quite there. Okay, so that's pretty close. Last string, we return to the 5th fret method. So play the 5th fret of the B string, and that should be the exact same as the open high E string. That's an E note, so they should match, and that sounds so bad. So my ear's telling me that that's too low. Okay, one more time. Okay, that's pretty good. Now watch this. Okay, I was gonna say, it's pretty good, but what I would normally do is go through and do that entire process again, because the way wood works, when you tune one string, you're putting more tension up on a string if you bring that note up, so it throws everything else out of whack. So always do 2 passes through when you're tuning the guitar by ear, just so you can get it as in tune as possible. Now I want to show you one more way to tune the guitar by ear, and this one's called Harmonics, and this one is actually more accurate, but you have to be kind of in a quiet place for it to work so you can actually hear what's going on. So I'm going to throw this guitar just out of tune a little bit, and I want you to see this. This is pretty cool. In order to do this, you have to be able to do something called a harmonic, which is when you just barely place your index finger or any finger right over the fret of the 5th fret, not pushing it down, but just barely touching it. And you play that string. So instead of getting the open string, you get this. And then you can just pluck it and let off. So you're barely touching the string. Okay? And I do that with my index finger, and then I hit another harmonic on the 7th fret of the next string, which is the A string. And that's kind of the basic move that you need to get down to have to be able to tune a guitar using harmonics. So actually, I'm gonna get another E from this guitar here, just so I have a good starting point. Okay, then I'm gonna hit a harmonic on the 5th fret of the low E, and then I'm gonna hit a harmonic on the 7th fret of the A string. And both of those notes, the way it works, the guitar, don't ask why, is those are both E notes. And what happens when you use the harmonic method, it really accentuates that warble or that grinding that you hear between 2 notes when they're not quite in tune together. And I'll show you what I mean here. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna tune the A string. Okay, you hear how the warble was there? And the closer you got the notes together, it eventually got slower and slower and then phased out completely because they're in tune. This is the most accurate way to tune a guitar by ear to me, and it works the same thing, same on the next 2 strings. You hit the 5th fret harmonic of the A, and then the 7th fret of the D. Okay, that's a really good example. You can really hear that warble really good. And the farther away they get, the faster it gets, right? The closer they get, the closer they get, the farther apart the warble gets until they line up perfectly, and it's gone. Same thing on the next 2 strings. So 5th fret of the D string, and then 7th fret of the G. You hear that warble. My ear was telling me it was low. And just adjust it until it goes away. Now this is where it changes a little bit. Again, with that B string, because of the way the guitar is tuned, you have to kind of compensate for this. What you can do is just play a harmonic on the 7th fret of the low E. That's a B note. It ends up being a B note, and then you can play either the open B string and tune it that way, or we can play a harmonic on the 12th fret of the B string. That's a B note as well. I like to do that. So 7th fret of the E, and I'll get that out of tune a little bit so you can hear it. So 7th fret of the E harmonic, then 12th fret of the B. Or you can do it 7th fret and open B. It's not as easy to hear the warble there though. Okay, and that's the only place that it deviates. So you just go to tune the high E string, 5th fret of the B string, and then the high E string. And this is a little bit more challenging. I like to get a pick just because it's a little, you can dig into it a little more and get the harmonics to come out better. And I would do that twice. I would go through and do it again. And then your guitar is in tune. So that's two methods that you can use to get your guitar in tune by ear without an electronic tuner. And you may be wondering, well, how often should I tune my guitar? Well, a good rule of thumb is to every time you pick up your guitar to play it or for a practice session, go ahead and tune it. It's great practice. It's really good for training your ear, and it'll be nice because you'll be as in tune as possible, and you'll sound good to everybody, including yourself. So that is it for this one. It's going to take a lot of practice. Well, it may take a lot of practice. You may be really naturally good at this, but usually it takes some practice to get good at tuning the guitar. Here are your assignments for this lesson. Number 1, memorize the natural musical alphabet. Number 2, memorize the names of the open strings on the guitar. Number 3, memorize the 5th fret method for tuning the guitar. Number 4, use the 5th fret method to tune your guitar. Number 5, if you want to, this is kind of an optional one, memorize the harmonic method for tuning the guitar. Number 6, use the harmonic method for tuning the guitar. And number 7, tune your guitar at the beginning of each practice session. All right, that is it. If you have any questions or just want to let me know how things are going, leave a comment below or email me, nate@natesavage.com. Be sure to head over to natesavage.com as well to sign up for email notifications about the latest things that are going on. Also, be sure to like and subscribe to this video and visit the channel. That really helps move things along here and keep things going. I'll see you in the next video.